trim it before it goes, because you can trim it just before you send it out. So
Oh, cool.
it's good. It's good. All right, man. Cool. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Finally, just 20 minutes after the initial starting time. No big deal. It's fine. No worries. But we're here now. That's all that matters, which is great. I'm excited to be here. So we have one of my good friends, Daine Clark. He's with us today. And I want to tell you a little bit about Daine and why I'm really stoked that he was able to cut out some time in his extremely busy schedule to come just chat with us a minute. And correct me where I'm wrong, but Daine, you've helped over 1,000 people actually make money in real estate. Like they did transactions over 1,000 people. Does that sound right?
Yep. I've actually helped people over 1,000 paychecks to individual people in real estate deals. Yes.
That's awesome. And how much money have you put to work?
Oh, I don't know. Over 60 million, probably.
Just 60 million. Okay. All right. That's cool.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So you put to work $60 million. And most of that money wasn't even yours, right? A lot of this is using people's money and finding that win-win. That's amazing. So I remember when I first started like 6 years ago, when we'd go to the meetings and you were one of the guys that were more experienced than some of the other of us, well, at least me for sure. But you were what really impressed me is your willingness to help other people, willingness to share your knowledge. And just like, this is my system, this is what it is. And there you go, without ever asking for anything in return, which is, shows, the type of person you are, which is really cool. And so you were a huge influence on me when I first started. Like when I was going to those meetings, especially those Wednesday nights, events that we had, like every Wednesday, we'd learn something about real estate. And that was extremely helpful because we had our education, we had our classes, and then we were able to go somewhere where we can ask questions and put things into practice. So I think that really catapulted myself to where I was and where I'm at now. So I really appreciate coming on and willing to share. So it's pretty awesome. So tell me about what's going on now. What have you been, so you've helped a lot of people, and what's like the cool thing you're doing right now, which is amazing. So you're making money in real estate, not really owning the real estate, at least not for long. Can you walk me through like how are you doing these deals? Because that sounds awesome.
Yeah. So, and I better preliminarily say that I originally started by flipping houses and was sure it's good money, but it wasn't what I wanted to do, especially long term. The more deals I would do, it seemed like the higher stress I had. And it was good money. And so I called fix and flipping the golden handcuffs for several, I would say several years even.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started doing a couple of deals on accident differently that I was just like, what am I doing? Like, why do I keep on kicking against the pricks, if you will, chasing these fix and flip deals? And I remember finding one person in the method that I'm going to share today.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until a couple people later that I was just like, wait a second, if I've helped one person do this, odds are there's more than one person that needs this kind of help. And so shifted my business model. At that time, I still was doing the hard stuff, and then gradually did what we're doing now. But that's where I started. I didn't just start doing this from day one. It was a process, little by little, learning this. But so basically what I do now is I should even back up and say the original intent of fix and flipping was because I didn't have money for rental properties. And that's what I wanted. I thought I wanted to buy one rental property every single year for the next 20 years of my life. And then I would have 20 rental properties at the end of the 20 years. But even then, I wasn't very satisfied with the rental properties, because if you have a rental and you're hoping that you can, live your lifestyle off of rental properties, then at the end of the day, I mean, you end up being dead wrong, because let's say you're cash flowing $500 a month on a rental property, and then all of a sudden you have to fix an air conditioner or a water heater or anything else, but you're spending $500 a month in groceries. now all of a sudden you're like, oh shoot, what do I do? Make sure the rental keeps on making money and not piss off my tenant, make them take cold showers, or do I buy $500 worth of groceries this month?
Yeah.
Because that rental was my grocery, and that's how that's how I ended up thinking, like, no, rentals is not the answer for passive cash flow at the end of the day, because there's so many variables. And so what I do today is try to think a lot more like a bank. Now, obviously there's still some, risks, but they're just going to be fewer and far between compared to the rental property. And so nowadays, and if we have time, I'll go over 3 different deals specifically that we've done, and we'll break down actual numbers.
That'd be great.
One from like the fix and flippers standpoint, which I think you and I were talking about. A lot of people, they watch HGTV, and fix and flipping is like the sexiest thing alive when it comes to real estate deals. And Chip and Joanna Gaines do a very good job at helping us see how sexy real, fix and flips can be. I'm in that boat. I love the before and afters as well. But at the end of the day, when you're looking for that passive cash flow, it's not passive when you're working and hiring contractors, stuff like that. And so let's talk about let's maybe go in a range, and you stop me at any time if there's certain things that you want me to cover.
Oh no, you're
but I can basically, let's see if you'll let me share my screen.
Oh, sure.
I'll basically just go deal per deal from deal to deal to deal. And
that's the thing. When in the industry, as I'm getting this set up for you, share your screen. What's interesting is you hear a lot of like just passive income. And what a lot of people don't realize until you're actually in it is that there's not really, it's rarity when it's actually really real passive. There we go. Because there's always something like you're saying, there's always managing EPM property management. There's always something you have to maintain. I mean, I have short-term rentals and I call them semi-passive because there's still stuff that I have to do to maintain them and keep things going. So I think that the way you're going to explain things is kind of cool, where it pretty much is, as close as you can get to actual just passive income. So that I'm very excited to kind of hear about it.
Yeah, totally. And I remember in the beginning when I needed to click that button. Actually, I remember in the beginning, I was thinking like, oh, I want to think like a bank.
Yeah.
And at first I thought I had to have lots of money to think like a bank, because that's what banks do, is they have a lot of money and they lend their money and they make money passively. But with this strategy, I learned that and really, if you look into fractionalized banking, which, or what do they call that? Yeah. Fractionalized banking, where they go get 10 times the amount of money they have, whatever. But this is kind of a way to do something very similar, and where you can leverage, and you don't have to have tons and tons of money. In fact, the last deal that I'll show today, I literally had no money in the deal. In fact, we were money ahead, like a fix and flip. And so, and in fact, even the second deal that I'll show was straight across. I think the end all, as soon as we get to the numbers, I'll be able to see. But I think I was $600, no, not even. I think I was $360 out of my pocket to set this deal up from start to finish, and getting over $1,000 a month in cash flow. And
so how much? $700 out of pocket, as you said, and then you're getting $1,000.
If I remember right. We'll go through that deal.
Wow. Okay. That's.
But yeah, I figured I would start with the most realistic type of deal first, and then we'll move up and we'll graduate. So
I love it.
So in my quest, if you will, of trying to be a little more passive and always looking for something different, I came across a gentleman that was trying to buy a house, and he said, Daine, I'm a business owner and I'm an immigrant, and so double whammy, banks don't like me. And he's like, my business makes good money. I make very good money. I have over 6 figures stocked away in the bank to buy a house, and the bank won't touch me. And I remember this person, when they called me, I didn't know who they were. Somebody referred them to me. And so I'm just like, I'm not sure how I can help you, my friend, but tell me about your situation. And then he tells me all those things. He's like, yeah, I want to buy something for 400 some odd thousand. I've got $100,000 to put down on as a down payment. And it took me like 4 seconds to be like, wait a second, you've got over $100,000. You can't get a loan from the bank. Like,
Right.
our bank's stupid. Like this is like too good to be true. And he's like, yeah, because I'm a business owner, I don't have all these tax returns and whatever that the banks need. I remember thinking, like, you know what? I'm in that boat. I remember when I tried to buy my first house, the bank was like, oh, you have to file 2 years of tax returns and your business needs to be 5 years old or something like that. And just to qualify to get looked at for a loan.
Exactly.
And so I was like, yeah, this guy, I remember going through this myself. And I remember waiting 2 years after my business was all started up. And then we finally bought a house for me and my wife. And that's, when, for me, it wasn't a light bulb switch. It was like a dimmer switch where it gradually got brighter and brighter and brighter for me to realize, like, oh, wait a second. So anyway, so here's one that we just did a few months ago. And similarly, somebody came to me and said, Daine, I'm trying to buy a house. I own a mobile home, that's it's in a mobile home park. And so at that point it's classified as personal property instead of real property, because mobile homes have what do they call, like a car title, or what do they call that? Yeah, a car title, effectively.
Right.
And so we own this free and clear mobile home. We're trying to buy a house. And so is there anything you can do to help us? And obviously I had already started up my business model of doing this. And so, yeah, absolutely. We can help you. So there is a little bit of a unique nature on this one, but at the end of the day, they essentially said, all right, we want to buy this house over here in West Valley. And they said the purchase price is $450,000. And so what I'm about to show you is literally like, I don't think anything is supposed to be called easy, but this is like the simplest form of the deal. It is going to take a little bit of money, and I'll show you why, to get a deal done like this, but it doesn't have to. I just choose to be uber conservative when I do a deal like this. And I'll show you why as we go through. But at any rate, this person said, hey, Daine, we've got this house over here in West Valley for $450,000. I want to buy this house. And I can't get it because I'm, I think this person was also a business owner. Most of the people I've helped are business owners, realtors. I've helped commission salespeople, because again, a realtor and a commission sales, their taxes are kind of similar to a business owner. Well, and then immigrants.
And I think even if people have been in business for quite a years and successful, if their CPA is worth their salt, they should be paying very little in taxes, right? If they know a lot of strategies.
Exactly.
And so even people that are established and going on, like my AGI last year was 19,000. And so, my wife got a tax return because she worked a day job, but I paid more taxes when I was working at Walmart than I am now. But anyways, but that's the thing. Exactly. Like, so it's either like, do I want to qualify for loans, or do I want to pay more taxes? And so that's kind of where a lot of experienced investors. It's really cool what you're.
And what's interesting, now that you've said this, what's really interesting is if you do the math, oftentimes it comes out cheaper if you say, hey, you know what? I will go ahead and pay the taxes. I will file my business for 2 years in a row where I'm paying 10, 20, 30, maybe $50,000 in taxes just so I can qualify for a loan. Or I just go get something on seller financing. It's going to be more expensive. I'll tell you right now, it's more expensive than getting a Fannie Freddie if you've got an 800 FICO. But we're not talking tens of thousands of dollars more expensive at the end of the day. And so oftentimes people look at that. Like, I actually had one guy, one gal, and she was a realtor, and she was in that boat where she's like, I technically could go get this loan, but I don't want to. She's like, I make really good money. Yeah. And I have very good credit, but I don't want to go get a loan just to do this at the end of the day, because of how it affects my credit, my taxes, whatever. I'm just going to do this. And bless her heart. We did that property back in like 2019, I think it was. And she's selling it in 5 days from now. And she's cashing out pretty big because that house has appreciated really nicely. And she's like, yeah, Daine, I made more money than you did. And I, at the end of the day, I'm going to count one more, I count that as one person, my 1,000. That's an example of one person. But, so one more tick on my mark of how many people I've helped. And it's a beautiful thing that she made more money than I did in this particular deal. But anyway, So yeah, stop me as you go, as we
No, you're
go.
good.
But yeah,
You're good.
450,000. And they said, we've got this mobile home that's worth, I think it was worth $120,000 or something like that. And I said, okay, how about instead of trying to make offers on houses and say, hey, it's contingent upon us selling the mobile home and then we'll close, especially when this was going down, people were houses were still in demand, if you will. And so we wanted to be really competitive with our offer. And so I said, tell you what, you've got $120,000 mobile home. How about I lend you $90,000 on the mobile home so that you can buy whatever house you want. And then I'll just get paid back whenever you sell the mobile home. And so they're like, oh, cool. Yeah, sounds great. And so that's ultimately how we found the down payment for this particular deal. We purchased it for 450, which really, if you do the math, I mean, I came up with everything to buy this house up front, but then I had essentially two loans because I came up with the 90,000 to loan them on the mobile, which again, and everything I'm going to show you today you don't have to have the resources that I have today. I mean, I've been building my own resources for years and years and years. I could go find this money anywhere. There is money all over the place where people want to put their money into real estate. I mean, you would be surprised at how many people are like, yeah, I love putting my money in real estate. So you could go find somebody, say, hey, do you want to give this person 90 grand on their mobile so that they can have a down payment on a house, and then you'll get paid back on the mobile. I happen to be in a position where I said, yeah, I'll give you the 90 grand. And so
what's interesting, and when you say that, it was really shocking to me and a lot of other people is like, there's so many people willing to put money into real estate because it's actually backed by a hard asset. So even if they invested it and everything went bad, they still have the hard asset. They can gain back control if they're lending on or whatever it is. And the thing is, like, whenever someone's starting, and they always think like money is the hardest part, but the second you actually do a deal or two, like, wait a minute, money's literally the easiest part of doing the transaction. At least it's been for me. And it's just like, if the deals, and if ever I have a hard time finding the money to do a transaction, I have to look back. I look at the numbers like, wait, this deal isn't as good as I thought it was going to be. So like, it's kind of like, if the deal's good enough and you're doing your networking, that money's going to come, which is crazy to think about, especially with me thinking of my Walmart associate self 6 years ago. I would have said, you're beautiful, but you're wrong. There's no way that thing could be a thing, right? So
yeah.
Sorry, you just hit that, and it was kind of him. And by the way, anyone that's listening, put in there that's business owners, put in the chat if you're business owner. That we want to, if you know the pain of the taxes and getting qualified for loans, we want to hear it. But yeah,
we feel your pain.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, go ahead, Daine. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So that's ultimately where we came up with the purchase price, because buying the house for 450,000. And whenever I do this, I always say like, hey, I can't do this as a charity. Like I have to make at least a little bit of money. Sure. At the end of the day, you're going to make more money than I do on, if you sell this house in 3, 5, 10, or even if you pay it off over 30 years, you're going to make more money than I do, but I do have to make something at the end of the day. And so the house was listed at 450. We bought it for 450. And what I did there was went and borrowed hard money at 360,000. And so I lent them 90 grand on the mobile as their down payment. And then I borrowed hard money, and I do own my own hard money company. And so, but again, I say I went and borrowed hard money because anybody could do this, right? You don't have to own a hard money company or have the money to do what I'm showing you. Over the years, I just found out like, hey, I could do this a little more efficient because of how many deals I want to do. Why don't I just start my own hard money company? Which, there's an idea for a lot of people as well. Just like, hey, cut out the middleman, start your own, do your own thing, right? The knowledge is there. There are people that are willing to share. Just like me, I didn't recreate any wills. I have not invented anything in real estate. I've just used other people's strategies and baked my own cake, sure.
Right.
But I could go get other people's money to do this whole entire deal very easily. People are out there. So anyway, got 360,000 from hard money. So this is hard money loan. There's the hard money. And in the beginning, no money needed because, technically I did borrow it from my entity. And that's why this is showing zero money cash needed, because I borrowed 90,000 from my business, 360,000 from hard money, which my other business. And so as an investor, me personally, no money out of pocket. And so, now I will say I figured maybe it would appraise for more, but it did actually appraise for $20,000 more than we bought it for. I anticipated that it wouldn't, which, I mean, if you're paying attention to this aspect, I just bought a house retail value on the market. Sure, I got a $20,000 discount actually, but I anticipated that it would actually appraise for the literal dollar amount that I paid for it.
Right.
And and this is why I share this one first, because, this is a Joe Schmo deal that I didn't have to get crazy creative and get massive discounts on real estate. My discount is that I got this $90,000 through an asset of somebody else's, essentially my buyer. Right.
Right.
And so, anyway, so it did appraise for $20,000 more. Oh, well, even if it appraised for 450, I would have been perfectly happy. And so anyway, now after, let's come down to here, refinance. Cause obviously I'm not going to leave my cash in this deal forever. At the end of the day, what I'm going to do is go and get a Fannie Freddie 30-year mortgage. You don't have to do Fannie, you could even do a DSCR, whatever. But I went and got the cheapest money I could find, which in this case was, I can't remember if it was Fannie or Freddie, but government-backed loan through a traditional loan officer or whatever.
Right.
And so then I went and refinanced $352,000 with the bank, and I got a 6.49% interest rate in that particular loan. And in fact, here, let me even look at this, because I might even already be giving away. Nope, just kidding. Cool. It's going to show in this particular one. I did bring in a partner, but we're just going to leave it as if I did this myself. Okay. So I'm refinancing, because I got $90,000 from the mobile home loan, $360,000 from the hard money loan at the end of the day. And so if I get a $352,000 loan, I mean, that's not even enough to pay off the hard money, right?
Yeah.
Plus, any fees and stuff like that I'm going to have to pay, or refinance costs. So this is basically the money that's going towards my $350,000 loan. And here's how much I shared with the hard money, if you will, at the end of the day. So $12,000 in fees just to get this done, which means at closing for my underlying mortgage, I did have to write a check, right? In the beginning, I was zero money out of pocket because everything was borrowed and whatever. But now to close the loan, I had to write a check for $19,887. And here's why. I didn't have to do that, because notice my loan to value over here. I got a 75% loan to value from the Fannie Freddie traditional loan, whatever. And I could have gotten 80%. Those loans exist. I choose not to, just because rates are better, fees are better. At the end of the day, my equity is higher. Again, I'm very, very conservative. I don't like to do anything that doesn't work for me at 75% loan to values. I know it's possible to do more, but I just choose to be as conservative as I possibly can. So I did get a 75% loan to value, and I knew going in that I would have to bring a little bit of cash to the table just to get this deal done, but I'm okay with that. And here's why. If I am out the door, out of pocket on this house, $19,000, let's pretend that I'm buying rental properties. Okay, let's compare and contrast. So $450,000 on a rental property times 75%. So 450,000 times let's do 25%. 25% down payment. That is $112,500, $112,500 in cash just to buy this rental property. Same house, same numbers, same purchase price, same everything. And then I'm going to go and rent this house out. But instead, by doing it this way, I was only out of pocket, let's call it 20. cowboy math, $20,000.
Yeah.
Right. So already I like this better than a rental, and I didn't get a discount yet. Right. Again, this is why I showed this deal first. No discounts, retail value, just found an awesome tenant, in my opinion, the best tenant known to man, that gave me $90,000. And in this particular deal, I think I got paid back my $90,000 plus interest within like 3 or 4 weeks. Like they had somebody that ready to buy that mobile home very quickly after we did this whole deal. And so I got paid back my 90 plus some interest. I think I probably made 4 or 5 grand in just interest on the $90,000 loan. But anyway, story for another day.
Yeah.
But already I like this better than a rental property, because retail value purchase, I'm out of pocket at a 75% loan to value, mind you.
That's pretty good.
I'm out of pocket 20 grand versus buying rental on 112,000 in the same loan to value at the end of the day. Now check this part out. If I come down here, so I am charging this person $3,150 in rent, or seller finance income, essentially. If I remember right, the interest rate on this is like 8.625 or something like that. It's a little higher at the end of the day, and maybe even like a little bit lower than that. I don't know, but somewhere in the 8s. If I'm getting 6.5% on my end, I'm probably charging them somewhere in the 8s, right? So whatever that number is, but at any rate, they're paying $3,150 plus. Now this is where, again, I compare and contrast to a rental property. I'm going to have to pay for, right? Let's other expenses and or other income. Let's look at this. I have to pay for taxes, which in this particular house is $198 a month. And I'm going to have to pay for property insurance. In this particular case, $97 a month. And then in a rental situation, I'd have to pay for a manager, a property manager, or I'd do it myself and save me that bit of money. In this case, I don't need a property manager. I just need somebody that, I technically don't even have to have this, but I like this. I want somebody to collect that payment for me and send my mortgage payment to my bank and send me the difference. And so I have a loan servicer or contract servicer that charges $20 a month. But notice that so here's the other income, because who am I charging this to at the end of the day? My buyer. If you own the house, you pay the taxes, you pay the insurance, and I have my buyer pay that loan service fee. But at the same time, I'm going to have to pay the property taxes. I'm going to have to pay the insurance, and I'm going to have to pay that loan service fee anyway. So it just becomes a wash at the end of the day. And so after they pay their payment plus tax, insurance, loan service, I pay tax, loan, and service. Basically this is where I say, look at the wash.
Right.
Same dollar amount. My underlying loan payment is $2,226. And so I cash flow $924 every single month. If the water heater breaks, I don't care. They're going to fix it. If the roof leaks, I don't care. They're going to fix it. And these are actually some real stories. If the sewer backs up out of the basement into the shower and out of the toilet in the basement bathroom, they're going to fix it. True story. Yeah. True story. If the sewer between the house and the street breaks, and same thing, it's flooding, it won't go down the drain into the city, they're going to fix it. True story on another deal like this, where they take care of the house because they are the homeowner at the end of the day.
Because you basically bought the property and you're selling it, but selling in seller financing. And so that's kind of where the difference is. And it's just like my mortgage I have on this property. If my toilet breaks, I can't call the bank and tell them, hey, come fix this. You're like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Wells Fargo is going to laugh at you.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, what are you talking about? Get out of here. So you're in that same position. And on the same token, you got someone that just spent $90,000 to buy this house. And so the person, they were able to, come up with the money somehow. So they're doing well enough to make those payments. And most people aren't in the business especially if they're business owners, to spend $90,000 and they just destroy everything else, So it hedges a lot of the risk too, when they have so much skin in the game.
Yeah. They are going to treat this like gold. They are going to take care of this house. In fact, I have, in this particular one, this is one of the very few houses that I actually have seen. And the only reason I have seen this house, because most of the time I don't even see them. I've bought more houses now doing this than I have never seen than I have bought houses that I have seen.
Wow.
And the only reason I saw this house was because they wanted to meet the guy that is doing all this for them. Cause they're like, yeah, who's this guy that's behind the shadows or whatever? And they're like, we want to meet you. And I said, yeah, I'll just meet you at the house. And so I came in and surprised to me, they had actually remodeled the house already. They've got new kitchen, new counters, new, they put an, I know they blew out a partial wall and put an island in the middle, new carpet, new flooring.
Wow.
The house is beautiful. I've never had a tenant do that to one of my properties ever. Right. And so I'm out of pocket. Sure, I had to have some money in this one. I'm out of pocket $20,000, but I'm cash flowing 900 and what was it, 24? I think it was. $924 a month every single month. And so sure, I had to have a little bit of money, but if you do the math on that, my cash on cash return for that $20,000 that I outlaid to do this deal, I'm 55.7% cash on cash. I'll do as many of these as I possibly can. I don't care if it takes a little bit of money, or in fact, here's what I actually did on this one. Because I've got some buddies that really like to do real estate deals, but they don't like to find them. And so I've got people that say, hey, Daine, present deals to me. And so in this particular deal, I had a buddy named Cameron, and I said, hey, Cameron, and he's like, he's a good friend of mine. We've known each other for years. And he's like, Daine, I like deals, but I don't want to find them. So let's figure out how to team up. And so I said, all right, Cameron, how about you buy this house with your loan ability? So in essence, Cameron got the loan for $352,000. I didn't have to. And I said, how about Cameron, you come up with the cash? And so Cameron got the loan for $350,000. He brought the $20,000 in cash from his own bank account, if you will.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, how about we split this up? And so I told Cameron, how about you take the first 20% cash on cash? I will take the next 10% cash on cash. And you guys don't have to copy it or whatever. If anybody else is looking at doing something like this, this is just where I landed. I'll take the next 20%. And then after that, because we're at 55, so far we're at 30. How about anything above 30%? We split 50-50. And so above 30, we've got 20, let's see, 30, 40, 50. So we've got 25% above. I'm just going to round that down. 25%. So how about both of us enjoy another 12.5 in our 50-50 split? And so Cameron is making 32.5% and I'm making 22.5%. Did I do my math right? I hope that all adds up to 55-ish.
Yeah.
percent. And so at the end of the day, if let's see, I'd have to do the math on this. So let's say $20,000 times 0.32.5%, 325% divided by 12 months. So Cameron is $541 per month in cash flow and some change. And then if I minus out the 924, I'm cash flowing 382 plus, and change. And so at the end of the day, I could either have kept this 20,000 out of my pocket, cash flow 924. And honestly, if Cameron wasn't asking for deals, I probably would have. But let's even say that I didn't have the 20,000. Let's say I was like, I need other people. Here you go. I'm $0 out of my pocket to do this deal and $382 per month in cash flow. And I would even say that I'm extremely generous to give that much away to Cameron. I wouldn't have to do something like that. I have done other deals that they were less. Cameron's a really good friend though. And I want to help him, I want to help a brother out and help him do real estate deals and get some cash flow. And so go ahead.
So on this particular deal, you didn't use any of your money, any of your credit, and you're getting this big chunk of the whole deal. And you're getting paid this not because because you have the knowledge how to put things together, right? Is that a good way to put it? Like, because you were able to, you saw the opportunity, you knew where to take it, and it's because you had the knowledge. That's why you get paid. So that's just the kind of hits home as far as like understanding these things, these other principles. That's how you can make money. And where someone else would have saw this person, whether it's a realtor or whatever, like you want to, oh, you can't qualify, tough luck, buddy. You know,
Yeah, most realtors, in fact,
oh
these
yeah,
people did. In fact, backstory on this, to your point, exactly. This couple was told by a realtor, "I'm really sorry. I know you have good equity in the house that you could sell, the mobile that you could sell and have a down payment, but you don't have the tax returns." And so the realtor almost verbatim said, "Call me in 2 years when you have 2 years of tax returns from your business, and we'll buy you a house. But you're just going to have to stay in the mobile home park for the next 2 years.
right,
Then we will help you." And I'm not okay with that. If
right,
they're they're in a good position here. They've done financial, they've made some financial decisions very correctly. I shouldn't say correctly, let's say efficiently. There's no right or wrong. There's just inefficient or efficient at the end of the day. They've been efficient with their money, just maybe not efficient with their taxes. But
right,
now it doesn't matter. We completely obliterated that roadblock that the realtor was telling them and said, "Nope, go pick a house." And so his sweet wife, I remember when she was just like, "Oh, really? Like, okay, yeah." And
yeah,
she went and started looking at houses and said, "I want this one." And super awesome, super awesome. And they've got, I think, 2 kids, if I remember right. And now everybody has their own room. And it's just such a win-win-win for everybody involved
right.
on this deal.
And the thing is with that realtor, she wasn't trying to be, well, I'm assuming here, I'm getting a little bit, but I'm sure she's not trying to be like necessarily mean to this person or like, "Oh, sorry, tough luck, buddy." She may have been like that. I have no idea, but I would imagine she helped them to the limit of her knowledge.
Yep.
She's like, this is what I know. I know I can do a retail sell. You go to this person, you're going to go get pre-qualified. Then I can find the house. If the bank says you can do it, then we'll buy this house for you. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Right. Totally fine. But when there's so many different ways of doing different things, and if you just don't know how to do that, you're not gonna be able to help those people or help yourself find those opportunities. And when I hear people say things like, "Oh, there's no way you can find deals now," or "There's no way you can do certain things," and I'm like, you just don't know where to look. Like today, I'm literally getting a property under contract, subject to, and it's like the interest rate that the mortgage that they have that we're taking over, it's 2.75%.
Oh my
That's the
God.
mortgage rate that we're getting. And so it's just, I mean, we need like 25K out of pocket, so it's just like, okay, this is cool. We could buy it
Beautiful.
and then sell it at a, just, there's so many cool things you could do if you have that knowledge and support how to do it. So it's pretty amazing. But yeah.
Oh yeah. And it goes back to, I remember hearing this phrase all growing up, that what you don't know can't hurt you. And even though I don't necessarily disagree with that, but what you don't know can't help you either.
Right.
And so, sure, like, that, to your point, that realtor that was like, "Yeah, you're going to have to file taxes and we'll
Sure.
help you in a couple of years." What she didn't know didn't necessarily hurt them. People do that every day. They have to wait a couple of years or a couple of months to file do taxes or change their credit rating or whatever. People do it every day, but it's just not very efficient.
Right.
If you want what you want and you want what you want faster than the mainstream methods, if you will, of waiting for the taxes, waiting for the ITIN or the citizenship or the credit or the I probably already said taxes, but
Right.
whatever. If there's a will, there's a way. Let's not stop until we figure it out. So next deal, this one is a personal favorite of this. Essentially, in fact, I might have already given it away. By if you were reading into the numbers up there, but so not quite similar situation, but at its core was a similar way to help somebody. So this particular couple was living in this house. In fact, there's no photo. There's not even a Google photo. This is a newer house. There's not even a photo on
Yeah.
the what do you call it? There's not even a photo
Yeah, on Google Earth.
Google Street View or whatever, because it's a
Yeah.
newer house at the end of the day. And so let's see, let's come down to right here. So they were living in the house on, oh, I don't know what I just clicked. I think we're going to here. There we go. They were living in this house on a lease option for the last several years. And the owner, I can't remember why they had to do, I heard some of the backstory between the existing owner and this lease optionee, but for some reason they couldn't execute, or they couldn't buy it back then. And the owner he knew them or something like that, and was just like, yeah, we'll just do a lease option. And then lease option was about to come due. This actually was just not too long ago. And I won't go into the details of the story, but the owner, he was kind of mad at this point, even though he knew his lease optionees. He was kind of mad because he did this couple year long lease option, and they kept saying, yeah, we'll execute it early. We'll get the financing. And here we were to the last hour, felt like, we had, days at this point, because that lease option was about to expire. And he was so angry that they didn't do what they said they were going to do and refinance him out sooner. And they drug it out for 2 years. And, again, in his view, that he was just like, you know what, this house has appreciated drastically. In fact, here it is right here. This house has appreciated drastically over the last several years. And and so I just want you guys out. You drug this out for 2 years. I want you guys out. I'm just going to sell it like I should have done years ago. I think it was about 2 years, like I should have done 2 years ago. And let's just do this. Right. And so he was about to kick him out. And that's essentially when I came in, and they were like, please help us. Like, we have all this equity on this lease option to buy this house for $625,000. And we're going to be walking away from gobs of equity instantaneously. And so please help us. And that's, so in other words, lease options where they are having struggles to execute them, and they're going to walk away from a lot of equity. When I saw this, again, it took me like 4 seconds to be like, wait, what's your lease option purchase? $625,000. And I ran some math, ran some comps, whatever. I was like, man, this is going to appraise for high sevens. Yeah, I can help you. Let's figure this out. And they were even like, yeah, we even have, let's see, 70. I'm guessing the, let's see, I think it's going to show me right here down here. So they even said like, hey, we even have $82,000 to put towards the house, but we can't get a loan. And so I said, tell you what, we're going to figure this out. We're going to execute the lease option for $625. And I said, you guys go ahead and bring your $82,000 to the table. I will buy the house and I will sell it to you on a longer term lease option that will convert to seller financing with good behavior. And so that's exactly what we did. I bought the house for $625,000. They brought $82,000 of their money at the end of the day. And so just to buy the house, looks like I was out of pocket a total of $3,540. And that's just because of, looks like some lender title insurance. I bought a property insurance policy, title agent, all that closing fees and stuff like that. So again, not a ton of money out of pocket, $3,500. And same thing, I borrowed hard money, the $546,000. I borrowed hard money, sure, from my own company, but whatever. I could have borrowed it from any hard money companies are a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
Not all of them know, the things that I'm sharing with you right now, but you could get the money essentially if you know what you're doing. And so, it's funny because sometimes I'll have conversations with people that borrow from me and I'm like, oh, dude, just do this. In fact, I've got a guy right now that he's flipping the house, and I've just in conversation as we talk about the deal and what I know, I keep planting these ideas in his mind, and he's just like, in fact, I'm going to show you this on the next deal. I'm not going to spoil it, but he's okay. Blowing his mind what he's able to do, just because as we've been talking about, again, I'm just lending money to him, but in passing, as we're talking about deals and whatever, and talking about his particular deal, he's just like, I'm doing that. We'll get to that in just a minute. So anyway, so I borrowed $546,000 in hard money, same thing, refinanced 30-year mortgage. This was beginning of last year, if I remember right. So I got a 4.5% interest rate. And so I went and got a $560,000 loan amount. And so a little bit different from the last one, where my original hard money was 546. This time I was 560. And so if you are picking up what I'm putting down here, I'm getting money to refinance this house at this point. And so after all my closing costs for loan fees, paying off the private or hard money, all that kind of stuff, at the end of the day, I received $3,180 at my refinance closing, if you will. And then if you remember in the beginning, I was out of pocket $3,540. At the second closing, I received $3,180. And so my total out of pocket in this particular deal, $360 total after all the refinance and finishing there. Now here's where this gets really interesting. So they are paying me $3,979 in their lease option payment, seller finance payment, right? It's going to convert. It's not going to change I'm actually amortizing the lease even from day one. And so they're building equity in every single payment. The payment won't change, but we'll change the structure of it from lease option to seller finance. And so right now they're paying $3,979 plus, just like the last one, let's other income is broken down right here. Taxes, $350 a month, insurance, $57 a month, and then that same loan servicer. And just like last one, I still have to pay taxes. I still have to pay insurance and pay the loan service. And so that's where these two numbers become a wash. But then my mortgage payment is $2,841 at my interest rate and whatnot. And so I'm cash flowing $1,138 a month on this particular deal. Now, back to that, if I am net out of pocket $360 and my cash on, and I'm cash flowing over $1,100 a month, my cash on cash return, there needs to be a comma in here, else I won't be able to read it very well. 3,792% cash on cash return.
Oh, geez.
For my $360 out of pocket. And so I went to Cameron. I didn't go to Cameron, actually. I just said, I'm keeping this one myself because I've got $360 to spare. I just won't, I won't go to Ruth's Chris this afternoon. We'll just save on that $360 stake and we'll buy this house and whatever and cash flow it. Right. And so similar deal, different problem that we were able to solve. And I've got a handful of these where lease options, last minute, praying, help me. And then I come in and say, how much equity we got? Yeah. In fact, the last one I did this was just a couple months ago. The last one I did in July, similar situation, lease option up against a wall. She had tons of equity. And she was even like, hey, I've got money to put down, but there was so much equity. I bought that house for $350,000 in July, literally ordered the appraisal the next day and it appraised for $540,000. And so I told that person, I was like, hey, don't even bring any money to the table. Like there's so much equity here. You don't need to bring anything. And she's like, oh, well, can I bring some money to lower my payment? I was like, be my guest. You tell me how much you want to bring, but you don't have to bring one penny if you don't want to, because there's so much equity here. And she was like, yeah. How about I just put $35,000 down and then at the end of the day, my payment's going to be, I can't remember, a few $100s lower every month. Right. And I said, good for you. Let's get you a better deal, get whatever. And so,
and that 35,000 that went to you, right? Is that, I mean,
yeah. She basically just gave me $35,000.
So and that's kind of like so now you put in $300, but then you got 35 almost right away. And now you're getting this cash flow engine where, as far as risk goes, it's very next to nil because it's their property. It's their asset.
Oh yeah.
And
better than a
you're
rental.
owning the paper that the loan that's on it. You're being the bank.
Yeah,
And
I've never seen
that's
this house.
insane.
In
That's
fact,
so cool.
this is the only thing I've seen of this house, because sure, sometimes I drive by on Google Street View,
Right.
but in Google Street View, it looks like a mound of dirt or not even a cavity of dirt at the end of the day. And so this is all I've seen of this house personally. I mean, I saw the appraisal report. The appraisal had some photos. I was like, oh, okay, nice. Looks great. In just in the appraisal. But until then, this was it.
Yeah, totally.
And so at the end of the day, no money I shouldn't say no money out of pocket, but very little money out of pocket, very good loan to value. In fact, does it show us what loan to value is, or do I need to calculate it? Yeah. 71% loan to value position on this house. So conservative. I mean, a lot could happen before I'm ever like sweating bullets. Like, what am I going to do about this house?
Right.
If they stop paying, I mean, not that I want them to stop paying, but if they do stop paying, your choice.
I mean, well, then you just foreclose on them. I mean, heaven forbid, right? But let's say they just left the country, whatever. You foreclose on it, just like a bank would, just anyone else would. They'd foreclose on them. You get control of the asset again, and any repairs they've done, anything like that.
Honestly, I'd sell it again on seller financing, get another big down payment.
Exactly.
And because of the interest rate on this one, and interest rate, compared to interest rates today, I would probably undercut even what an 800 FICO could get, because then I could boost my value above even appraisal. Because if we're doing seller financing in this case, I could sell it above appraisal and get cheaper. Be like, hey, an 800 FICO right now, you're looking at like 7.5%, maybe 7.25%. So how about I do 7%, but I think this house might appraise for 800,000. How about we do like 890 or something like that on seller financing? And so, I mean, there's tons of options. The beautiful thing about keeping things conservative, in my opinion, is you always have options to do plan B, plan C, plan D. When you don't have as much equity, or if you're not as conservative in your loan to values, sometimes you only have like plan A and maybe plan B in many cases.
Yeah.
And so, cash is king, essentially, and rings true. So, anyway, all right, go ahead.
Well, and the thing is, like speaking of that, when you're positioning yourself into a place where if stuff hits the fan, then you're still okay because you have plan A, plan B, plan C. And the thing is, when I see people when they watch a few YouTube videos, like I got this, I can do this, and then in an up market, everyone's a genius. And when everything's going up, things are like me as a wholesaler. I had guys, they were buying some of my deals that was kind of tight numbers to begin with. And I was like, you sure you want this? And they were telling me, and they were showing me their numbers because they have different, money people and different costs. And like, wow, this is a lot more expensive than I have. Are you gonna make any money on this? And they're like, well, yeah, if nothing changes, we'll just break even, but it's going to appreciate in the next couple of months. So we're going to make that money. Like that's how you're doing this. Like, let me give you my loan guy, because you're hurting yourself. But it's my whole point is like everyone's a genius when it's up market, but when it comes down, that's when it gets people like, that's where the novice kind of leave, because suddenly like, oh, I can't just be present and make money. I have to know what I'm doing. I have to have the A, B, and C, and factoring like whenever I did a flip too, it's just like, okay, what happens if 2008 happens again? What is my exit strategy if that happens? How do I take care of people that to put the money in, whatever the case may be? So yeah, it just kind of hit home at that point.
In fact, that was one of the things that when I was looking at doing this, to your point, if market's going up, fix and flippers are making money on accident, right? If market is kind of stagnant, where sure, the market's holding, but it's not going down, but it's not going up. At that point, you have people that actually will make little mistakes and they'll lose money in a stagnant market. If it's not appreciating, the newbies are getting weeded out, but especially if the market is going down at any rate, slow, for the last couple of years, we've had a little bit of a dip, but it's been slow. It wasn't just like it wasn't like 2008 where things are just, things have been going very slowly or maybe taking longer. And a little, in this arena, a little mistake can cause you to lose money. In this arena, I mean, even running everything perfectly, you might still lose money. And so newbies are drastically getting, I mean, I'm seeing newbies get drastically weeded out right now.
Yeah.
Big time. But I mean, if you're paying attention to, I mean, even this type of, this method, if you will, of deals, I don't care if the market's doing this, or I don't care if the market's doing this, I don't care if the market's doing this, because everything happens so fast. I buy it, I sell it, I refinance it all in one day. It doesn't matter what the market's doing.
Right.
I was still making money as the market was having a little bit of a heartbeat and coming down. We still I've still been buying at least a house a month doing this for the last 2 years. And every single one of them turned out perfectly to plan because of how fast we're doing this, how we're locking them in at whatever the market's doing, doesn't matter at the end of the day. And so this will make money up, down, stagnant, whatever. Right now, of course, there is that case scenario. Let's say that on the last deal, let's say the last deal market tanks and then they stop paying and I have to foreclose on this and take it back. But the market has dropped so far that, oh crap, I can't sell this and make my money back. I'm going to lose. Right. That's when, because I set that just right in that loan to value, rents historically, I mean, they might stagnate, but rents historically don't go down. And so worst case scenario, it's like, oh, instead of seller financing this, how about I just turn it into a rental and we'll rent it for the next 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years. If we absolutely have to, we could. And mainly because that loan to value is so low. Had I been going and getting 90% loan to values and cashing out big and putting money, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands in my pocket, then sure, I'd probably be in trouble because my payment would be so high that I couldn't even rent it and make my money back or cash flow from month to month. I'd be negative. And so anyway, hope that makes sense.
In perfect sense. Yeah, totally.
But all right, let's talk about this one. So here was one, similarly, this person just came and borrowed money from me to buy a fix and flip. And same thing, I like to talk to the people that borrow money from me. I like to share ideas, Jared, to your point, I like just talking real estate with people. And so people that borrow money from me, I obviously talk to them more because we have deals we're doing together. And so this particular person, they had found this house that they wanted to go and flip. And these were even newbies. Like they were pretty new. In fact, this was their first ever fix and flip transaction they'd ever done in their career. And so they found this house for $210,000. We won't go into the backstory on this, but they found the house for $210,000. We figured the ARV would be in the high 300s. And so good deal, very good fix and flip numbers here. And so I said, all right, tell you what, I will lend you $168,000. They opened up a brand new HELOC, and I think their HELOC was like $100,000 or something like that. And so they said, all right, we'll bring $42,000 towards the purchase. And so between their money and my money, we bought the house cash. And then they said, hey, out of the HELOC, we will manage the contractors. And, they said that they're going to do some of it themselves, but we'll manage the subs, we'll manage the scheduling, and we'll pay the paychecks to the contractors. And so all in all, I was out of pocket 168. They were out of pocket 80 out of their HELOC though. So arguably other people's money, but out of their HELOC, $80,000. And so over the course of, let's see, where's, this is not going to show the flip. So in the flip, they were going to make about $50,000 if I recall. And so they were going to, actually, no, it was going to be more. I'm not a head math guy, but $385,000. Let's say they're paying like 6%, in, realtor fees plus, let's do this. 385,000 times, let's just do like 0.93 times 0.93. That's $358,000 after closing costs and realtor fees and title and escrows and stuff like that. Minus buying it for 210, minus their $35,000 in rehab. And then let's get our holding costs here. Let's say holding cost is 12. Let's even estimate high. Let's say 15,000. So 15,000. So now we're 358. And so we're going to minus 210 for the purchase. And forgive me, I'm not a very fast math person, but 210 minus 35,000 minus 15,000 and all their holding. And so yeah, they were going to make $98,000 in profit on this fix and flip house. Very good deal, right? Above average.
Totally.
Let's call it above average.
100% agree. Yeah.
And so now, over the course of, the months that it took them to, fix the house up, and we had several conversations over the phone, and I'm planting in their ear, seller financing or lease options, and, buying and holding instead of just cashing out big and fix and flipping. And after over time, they're just like, you know what, Daine, we're going to try it. We're almost ready to sell the house. We're going to try just doing what you're talking about, and let's see if we can sell it. And so they didn't even put it on the market yet. They just started talking to people, and somebody was like, hey, I need a house. I'm looking to buy a house on seller financing. And so they didn't even need a realtor in this case. Now, obviously, that's not usual. Oftentimes, to find a buyer is going to take time and whatever, but hey, this one lined up. And even if they had to list it on, on the MLS, would have still been just fine. And so let's go to our refinance. So I told them, like, hey, market it, find a buyer, whatever. Let's see what we can do to convert this from just a standard fix and flip to merging together like a fix and flip seller financing lease option baby. And let's see what comes out. Right. And so at the end of the day, let's see, where's our ARV? I think it was above. So appraised for $385,000. They got a 69.9% loan to value, which is represented right there. And so they refinanced the house. They had a buyer already lined up,
right?
But they refinanced the house with that buyer already lined up. And so they got a loan for $270,000. Now refinance costs, they ended up paying all the closing fees and stuff like that for the lender. Plus that buyer that bought it from them on seller financing gave them $72,000. And so the net, they netted out from the down payment $66,000, which is right there. And then I loaned them that $168 some odd dollars. Plus I added on some points and fees to that. Plus I charged them the interest and stuff, whatever. And so they paid me, I think, what did I say? For around $15,000, give or take. And so between the refinance of my loan that I gave them, the down payment from their end buyer minus all the fees, they cashed out $151,000. Now, they had money on the HELOC, so they had to pay off the HELOC.
True, yeah.
So they took the $150,000. They paid $80,000 off the HELOC, and at the end of the day, had another $71,000 in their pocket.
Wow.
This deal was awesome. And so from, I think this took us, let's call it 5 months. So 5 months later, they're $71,000 richer than they were before, paid off their HELOC, everything. And
love it.
They were, in my opinion, they were even really nice. They didn't charge an arm and a leg on the interest. I shouldn't even say an arm and a leg. They didn't even charge like market rates. They could have charged a lot more.
Sure.
In interest, just because, and I knew what the markets were, but again, it came from their circle of influence, people that they were starting to talk to, and then somebody's like, hey, I need it. And so they gave them a discount.
Got it. Makes sense.
but you know what? They're a saint. And so good for them, because they're still like, you know what? I don't have to kill it on this deal. This is good enough for me.
Yeah.
And so sure, they're only cash flowing $319, but they're $71,000 richer.
Well, that's $319 is probably more than average rentals getting right now if you're buying one of the properties.
Today,
So
I would argue the same thing, that right now
it's crazy cool. Yeah, right now it's kind of hard, especially if you're just buying stuff on the market. Tradition, like you gave the example, putting $100,000 down.
Yeah, exactly.
But so this is amazing. So these guys, they made well over 70, and then plus what, the difference from when they first purchased it, whatnot. So, and they got $70,000+ plus additional $300 plus for, was it a 30-year mortgage, or what was the?
Yeah, I told them, I said, hey, don't be stingy. Tell them like they can pay, in fact, I don't say this. Don't tell them that they can pay as long as they want. Tell them, hey, I'll help you as long as you want my help.
Yeah.
If you want to pay that payment, the $1,500 a month plus tax, insurance, and whatever, and then their payment is $1,227. Be like, hey, I'll help you for 5 years if you want. I'll help you for 10 years if you want. I'll go 30 years if you want me to, and you could pay this house off.
Yeah.
I just happen to know that the average mortgage is going to sell or refinance every 5 to 7 years. But even then, like, let's say $3,831 per year for 5 years. Let's see, what's that? I'm not a head math guy. Somebody might have to help me with
almost
that.
Almost 4,000 for 5. So we got 20,000 plus, or a little under 20,000, right?
There you go. 19,000 for 5 years. And so after 5 years, they make an extra 19. After 10 years, they make an extra 30. After 15 years, they make an extra $57,000. I'm okay with that.
Well,
Plus,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that this for people to even do flips now, if they structure it right, instead of like even having an average flip when you're making 30, 40, 50 grand, and you're like, okay, what, I'm going to sell this and I'm going to get my money out, but how can I get the cash flow on top of that? So doing something like this on selling it, you're selling on seller financing.
Oh yeah. If you're flipping houses and you're not doing this,
right.
I'm not saying what you don't know isn't hurting you, but what you don't know is definitely not helping you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't flip houses anymore, but if I did, I'd be doing exclusively this.
Yeah.
Only because you're right. You take a $30,000 fix and flip house that's not even a home run, and you start doing this. You take that $30,000 fix and flip house and turn that into $100,000 fix and flip over 5 years.
Yeah.
Without owning a rental. At the end of the day, and I didn't point this out, but check this out.
Yes.
So notice that if I remember right, the amount that the seller finance buyer owes them. Let me run that math really fast. Let's see. Minus their $72,000 down payment. So their buyer owes them $293,000 when the whole thing started. Now it is going to amortize, but notice that their loan is only $270. And so that's, not a huge amount of money. Was that 24,000? I'm not a head math guy. So, so there's a $24,000 spread. And so let's say they do refinance this out in 5 or 10 years, they're going to get that $24,000 when their buyer refinances them out, sells this house, whatever. So they get another check of 24 grand, which again, add 24,000 to that. I mean, there you go. What did we say? 15 years was like 57,000.
Yeah.
Plus the 70,000 there, plus 24,000 there. I mean, I'm not a head math guy, but a lot. We're talking.
It goes to a boatload. That's the official number. Boatload.
Almost 200 grand on one house.
When they originally were just going to make like 90 at best scenario, which, I mean, no one's shaking their finger at 90 either, but still,
sure.
Like that's insane.
What you don't know can't help you.
Yeah, no, totally. And you said you're doing stuff like this, at least if not more, at least once a month, right? So finding buyers that have these type of down payments, has that ever been a challenge for you, or is this you're marketing right, or do you find the buyer first, then you help them find their house, or how are you finding?
Mostly I find the buyer first. In fact, most of the people that I've helped just heard me having a conversation like this and almost had the exact reaction that you did, where someone's like, dude, that's me.
Yeah,
Can you help me?
exactly. Right.
Because they're, I just happen to somehow I attract lots of fellow business owners.
Sure.
And they're just like, I was at an event where it was all about personal development. And, just in passing, like, oh, what do you obviously people ask, hey, what do you do? What brings you here? And I was just like, oh yeah, this is what I do. And no joke, the gal calls me 2 weeks later after this big event. She lives down in St. George, and she drove up to Salt Lake for this event. She calls me 2 weeks later and says, hey, that thing that you told me that you do, can you help me? And I helped her out.
Love it.
I had a conversation with a realtor, and that, I basically was like, hey, Mr. Realtor, do you ever have buyers that at the end of the day, you have to tell them, sorry, call me in 6 months for any reason, credit, immigrant status, tax, business ownership status, commission sales. And sometimes I've had realtors, in fact, like I think I already mentioned this on this call, even I've had realtors like, hey, that's me. And I've helped realtors buy houses. Or I've had realtors say, oh my gosh, I've got this many people that I just said that to in the last month. Let me call them back. Let's see if I can help. Let's see if we can help them. Right. I kid you not, I had one realtor. I mean, bless this guy's heart. He is the champion. But I had one realtor that I said this to, and he's like, dude, that happens to me all the time. In fact, most of my clients, I have to say that phrase, oh, call me in 6 months, 2 years, whatever, credit, all these issues why the bank says, sorry, I can't help you. That one realtor had 9 people that he ended up bringing, and we were able to help them buy a house from one realtor. I mean, needless to say, that one realtor made 6 figures just because I bought 9 houses through him,
right?
And helping his clients at the end of the day.
Well, and think about that. It's just what I was saying. What we were saying earlier at the beginning of this call was where the lack of knowledge is that realtor. Now, before, he was just like every other realtor. He was like, oh, you can't get approved. Okay, sorry. Let's reconvene in 6 months and 2 years, and we'll go from there. But now he's a step of above the rest, because he's like, okay, I actually have a guy that might be able to help you if and if if everything works out, then bam. And so because of that, he was able to close down. Was it 6? You said 9 or 6? What was it? It was 9.
9 houses from that one realtor, and that was in about a 14-month span.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So most realtors, almost a year.
The average realtor doesn't even sell that many in total, because I'm sure he sold other houses other than ones he sold with you.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, because he was running his business.
Yeah,
and those 9 were just ones that he couldn't go to the bank and help his clients get a loan from the bank. They were just ones that were like, yeah, he would have had to say, sorry, call me in 6 months, 2 years, whatever.
Yeah,
and we ended up helping him anyway. And so he got his commission. His clients bought the house. In fact, one of those people that we helped called us up and said, hey, I want to sell the house. And so he listed the house for them, and then we bought another house. And so he's getting multiple transactions, even though technically, or no, that was a gal. That story was the realtor was a gal, where sold the house, and then we went and bought another one. And in the situation where most often a realtor is going to have to say, call me in however many months, and we'll figure this out. And we bought 2 houses in probably less amount of time than he would have had to wait to fix the credit or whatever the issue was. I forget, but I'm sure he was a business owner. Most people are that we're helping to do this. And some of them have a double whammy, where the business owner and an immigrant or realtor filing their taxes like a business owner at the end of the day. And so yeah, most of them, I mean, I don't go find them anymore. People just call. I just make sure I answer the phone when it rings.
Yeah.
Today.
I love it.
Now, originally, sure, I did have to network with a lot of people in order to get that, but people have problems and they need to be solved by somebody. And I just said, hey, I'll help them.
Well, and that's the key of growing. That's one of the keys of growing wealth is providing value to others in one form or another. That's what it comes down to, And so it's just you're providing, helping your. And what really impresses me about all of this, like the vast majority of you being a hard money lender, on top of that, vast majority of the money is not even yours. You're lending other people's money, and you're giving value to the people that, they don't got to do anything. Just got to, they're just getting, they get their 10, 20, 12%, whatever they're looking for, and they're happy. And then you're just connecting these dots. And so again, that just kind of goes back to understanding the knowledge and how to do those things, and open up the entire different way of doing things. Like just like, again, because we're just doing this today, that the deal with that we're doing subject to, and with the 2.75% interest, there was other investors that put offers in this property, and then they recanted those offers because I don't know how to make this work. But we were able to construct the deal so it makes sense for the buyer, or for the seller, excuse me, and it makes sense for us too. So it's all about understanding where to get it, and if you're just trying to do in a couple of YouTube videos, Godspeed.
Yeah,
I look forward to buying your half finished flips. That's all I have to say. But yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, yes.
But it's okay. It's all right. I
So
love this.
Cool. I don't think, is there a way that we can check comments?
Yes. There hasn't been a ton of comments. We've had a steady stream of people. But Scott, let's see here. Let me take a look. All right. So Scott asked, I would love to organize my numbers in your manner. Big ask, completely understand if you're not okay with it, but I'm just curious if you'd be willing to send me a copy of your PDF so that I can somewhat replicate.
Yeah, you can even go to, in fact, are they on the Zoom, or is this on Facebook?
Facebook. Yeah.
If you go to, so I just use the software called Deal Check. And so if you just go to dealcheck.io, and then I'll even give you a, let's see, there's a, what do they call it? Passcode or discount code.
Is affiliate link kind of thing? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So if you type in a discount code, I know Daine 25, then they'll give you 25% off that software. And so, because I didn't create that PDF, I just used that software. All I did was punch in the numbers, and that software, it just spits it out for me. And so
what's the website again? Sorry.
Dealcheck.io. Do you want me to chat that somewhere, or let's see?
I'm actually putting it on his comment so he can.
Okay, cool.
So he
dealcheck.io.
Okay.
Is the website.
Awesome. That's cool. Okay, great. All right, next comment here. So Santiago says, that's me. I have a client I've said that I've said the same thing to as well. How can I connect with you? So we have another agent, Santiago. He wants to be the same like your other guy. He wants to close 9 more deals. How do we do that?
Yeah, you got 9. Yeah, we'll help as many as we want, or as many as we need. But yeah, you can just my email is just my first name. So in fact, if you see my thing on there, it's just my first name. So Daine at daineclark.com. And you can shoot me an email. You can reach out to me on Facebook Messenger. I'm not as good at checking Facebook Messenger, but I do check them, and we can exchange phone number there. But yeah, email is going to be probably the best. And it's just Daine at daineclark.com, and just make sure that you spell my name. It's unique spelling. Your autocorrect might put Diane, and it'll switch that A and the I. It happens all the time. But yeah, reach out to me on email's great. Facebook's great. We can exchange phone numbers, and go from there.
That's sweet. Okay, cool. So Sundown, now he knows where to go to get some help, right? When lending, okay, so we have Scott. He asked another question, says, when lending to someone with low credit, what do you consider instead? Recent track record, so on. So if they have low credit, but they still.
When you begin studying lending law and even seller finance stuff, and I'm not going to say I'm an attorney, I'm not going to say I'm even a professional, but I learned enough to know that because I am not a loan officer myself, I cannot, not only can I not do owner occupied loans, but I also cannot, what do they call it? Qualify. I cannot qualify somebody the same way that the bank is going to. I can't do the same process that Chase Bank is going to do to help somebody buy a house. And so because of that, I basically just say, hey, do you have the down payment that we need to do this deal? Can you make the monthly payment? Here's what the payment's going to likely be based on current interest rates or whatever. Is this payment easy? Is this going to be easy enough for you to make? And I just let them decide that. And just make sure, like, hey, and also, have them make sure that I disclose, this is like, it's not a mortgage, but it's similar to a mortgage where if you don't make the payments, you can't live there. If you don't make those payments,
right,
someone else is going to have to come in and probably buy that house or whatever. You could lose the house. And so based on those three things, you got the down payment. Can you make the monthly payment? And you realize that, we don't want to put you in a bind.
Right.
That if you can't make that payment, you could lose this house. And if they're okay with those three things, I basically just say, cool, let's do this. Let's get you a house.
Yeah.
And because I'm not allowed to put them through credit software, and and I'll have people tell me, but I don't ask because I'm technically not allowed to. But I'll have people tell me like, oh yeah, we're here, we're there. But in most cases, they don't.
Right.
At the end of the day.
And that's a good point to bring up. Like, if you're trying to do something like this, or you got to make sure that you get educated as much as humanly possible, and you're working with professionals. So especially when you're getting going, I'm assuming like these type of deals, you were going with attorneys, you're making sure you're doing the right way.
Yeah.
And because you don't want to, end up in handcuffs at the end of the day. Like, who wants that? So it's crucial to not just to wing it. We'll just write some documents, call it good. You got to have the right systems in place, the right contracts, and make sure you're not because even talking to people when they're potentially going to land on a deal, if you say something where they can nail you to the wall, whether it's discriminatory or there's tons and tons of rules and laws that has to be followed. And so that, in that case, what you don't know will hurt you if you're trying to do these things.
Yes.
And you dismiss it,
Yeah. In that case, absolutely. Yeah. And to your point, I have spent tens of thousands in legal and professional, attorneys' fees.
Yeah.
Not only to just know what I know, like I've spent money just to gain knowledge. I've also spent money to have documents drafted for me, have the deal looked over by, in fact, even to this day, I still have an attorney take a look at everything I do and help me draft. And also because, if I give a couple of stats here, to date, I have received 497 monthly payments from buyers like this. And not one of those has ever been more than 30 days late.
Wow.
Because we, by making sure, giving those disclosures, and because there's so much skin in the game, they know that, hey, this is serious. Like, I could lose my house. And so I think the latest I've ever had somebody was like 20 days, and it was because of some stupid mistake that they thought it was paid, and then I forgot to check and whatever. And as soon as they found out, oh, shoot. Yeah. And they made a payment. I had one that was 15 days late, and they, after reaching out to them, they knew about it. And this was the first time that this had ever happened. But I had it was 15 days late. And typically I'll run my audit, just to make sure that everything came through around the 10th and the 15th, and theirs wasn't paid. And so I just, shot them a little text and said, hey, I noticed that this one hasn't paid yet. What's going on? And they text me back, and, it almost looked like they made a little, turned it into a small deal. And I basically sent back and I said, hey, no worries at all. And I think on this one, they put like 90 grand down. I said, hey, no worries at all. My attorney is on autopilot, where as soon as we get past anywhere from 15 to 20 days past due, he's going to send you a little letter. It doesn't mean we're going to foreclose. He's just going to send you a little letter that says, hey, we realize that this one is in default. And if not caught up, then we'll have to start default essentially and potentially start the foreclosure process.
Yeah.
And then so I just said, you'll probably receive that letter, in the next little bit. But, and so not only are you going to have to pay a late fee now that we're 15 days late, but you're also going to have to pay the attorney fee to catch up in total. Cause I'm not going to pay the attorney to write that letter. I'm going to have you essentially pay that to catch it up. They paid by the end of that day and have never been even close to late
Right.
ever since. And that's all it took. And so again, 497 payments and have never been more than 30, and I could probably argue never been more than 20 days late on a single one of them. Never foreclosed on anybody either,
Right.
which, what I guess inherently that's what that means out of all those payments.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, we've been running a pretty tight ship.
And the thing is, I think that the most important part of why you're one of many reasons why you haven't ran into those challenges, because you mentioned this before, like you're so transparent of exactly, okay, this is this is what's going to happen. This is how we're going to do it. This is, if you do this, this will happen. If you don't do that, this will happen. And so I'm sure when it's in the text, like when you said your response, they can't be like, oh man, he's being a jerk. Well, actually, he said that 6 months ago when he first bought the property. So yeah, that's kind of it's telling people what's going to happen and just being transparent makes things a lot more easier, especially if he does get to the rough side of the road.
Instead of just being the jerk and like slamming, default
Right.
papers on the front door by the constable or whatever. And
Exactly.
I choose not to do that at the end of the day.
Totally. Yeah, because you rather have the rent checks. You don't, or not rent checks. You want to have those mortgage payments coming in. So that's amazing.
So cool. Any other questions, or we got them all?
I think there is a couple more. Now that we're answering, they're starting to pile in here. Okay. When lending to someone, we were talking about that one. Okay. So I guess as long as they have a good down payment, that's security in itself. Oh yeah, that's Scott kind of answering his own question. Let's see here. Uno momento. Okay. So what down payment terms are you typically requiring?
So typically today, just because rates have gone higher, I don't like charging a huge spread between my rate and the rate they get. Now, if they're putting less down in even like PMI range, like if they're doing anything less than 20% down, if I also put anything less than 20% down, then there's a PMI. And so today I basically just say, hey, if they have 20%, I will go ahead and put 25% down, like I showed today.
Yeah.
It's in fact that the first deal I showed, Libre, that was like a run of the mill, like template deal, cookie cutter deal, if you will, where they put 20% down, right? We bought it for 450, they put 90,000 down. And so they put 20% down, but notice I still put 25% down. And so that's kind of the sweet spot that we found, that I only have to have a spread of 2%. So if whatever interest rate I can go get with a 30-year mortgage having an 800 FICO, I add 2% to that. And so right now rates are like, let's see, so they put 20% down, and rates, I mean, I'm getting them in the 7s. I'm always looking for other lending opportunities as well to see if I can get anything a little bit cheaper. In fact, I just met a gal that's like, hey, I can actually beat Fannie Freddie. And so I'm like, prove it.
Right.
And so if she's actually can walk the walk, then hey, maybe we can start beating what Fannie Freddie, where Fannie Freddie, they're in the high 7s right now. And so most like we just did one, and I think she ended up paying like 9.625. Which is not amazing, but hey,
right,
it's better than like, hey, let's wait until rates come down 1 year from now, 2 years, who knows, 5 years from now, and then we'll get you a house. A lot of people are like, you know what, we'll get the house today. That way we can marry the house, but then date the rate. And if rates come back down in 1, 2, 5 years, then hey, we can always refinance. And I've even told people like, hey, I'm not opposed if you want me to refinance my underlying so that we can then change your terms and rate and basically do a rate and term refinance. I'm not opposed to that. And so that way we can still effectively have the same benefit of just buying it traditionally, that same quote, or what do they call that quote of date the rate, marry the house, but date the rate.
Yeah.
I'm still offering people the same thing. Obviously not right now. In fact, I've got a bunch of them right now on seller financing that we did in like 19, 20, and 21. The interest rates that these people have on seller financing is better than I can get with an 800 FICO even. And so obviously those people aren't going to want to refinance.
Right.
But anybody that's bought a house like this year, for example, I think we've done 7 of them this year, if I'm not mistaken. Their rates are a little bit higher. And so if rates come back down, that might be a great candidate to be like, yeah, let's refinance and get you back down to, middle of the single digits, or at least closer.
Yeah.
So 20% down has been my average lately, just so we can keep the rates. If we wanted to do anything creative, somewhere we'd have to give and take, whether maybe I charged a PMI, something like that. But
great. So Scott says, I think it's one of the last questions, and I think Joe, you have a pretty good answer here. But so when you said you can't do owner occupied loans, if you're not licensed, that confuses me because I thought that that's what we were talking about.
So there's a difference between, let's say you and I are doing this, Jared, where Jared is the person that needs to buy the house. If Jared says, hey, Daine, I want to go buy that house, and I just give him money to buy that house and he owns the house on title, that's a loan. Versus what I do, if Jared says, hey, Daine, I'm in this position where I can't buy a house because of, all the reasons, whatever reason, pick one, basically. I can't buy the house, but Daine, I've got 20% down and I want to buy that house. Then I'll say, hey, I will go purchase that house. So I am on title. I am the owner. Even though I only am on title, or I own the house, rightfully own the house for like 7 minutes, that's different than me saying, hey, Jared, here's some money. It's, hey, Jared, I own a house. I'm going to seller finance it to you. I'm no longer a loan officer. I own the house.
Right.
I'm not extending a loan. I'm extending a seller finance. And so that changes things in how that works. Versus just being like on the settlement, Jared signs to buy it. On the settlement, I actually sign to buy the house. And then I sell to them in a completely separate transaction. And then there's even some other seller financing laws that say, hey, you can only do like 3 in a year before you're considered, I can't remember what the term is, but I actually set up, instead of saying like, hey, we'll do 3 in each entity, I actually set up a brand new LLC for every single deal that we do. So that way, no one LLC does 3 seller finances to break some of these rules at the end of the day. But again, not giving loans. I own the house on title and I sell it on seller financing. That's different than being a loan officer at the end of the day. Instead of wiring, in a loan, you wire money in to loan them money. In this case, I'm not wiring money in. I own the house. They are giving me money because they're buying the house from me at the end of the day. I hope that makes sense. I hope that clarifies.
No, it does. And Scott actually, he responded to ask the question. That makes perfect sense. So he actually put in the comments that clear as day. So Scott also did the question. So also the lender you refinance, comments right in front of okay, here we go. If I can make this thing work. The lender you refinancing with must be considering the payments you're already putting in as income. So you keep qualifying.
Yes. Yeah. And that's actually why I mentioned, I think halfway through, that I always do a lease option conversion to seller financing. And I still technically amortize the payment from day one. I don't do any of like bait and switch where it's like, hey, I got you. The first few payments were lease payments.
Yeah.
And now we're going to no, I amortize from day one. And I mentioned that nothing changes in the payment structure. It just goes from lease option to seller financing. I still amortize from day one though, but that's what I do is I get a lease option first, right? So I purchase it and I own it. I lease option it to them. That's what allows them to give me their down payment, contractually. And then I have a pending purchase contract, right? In Utah, you're not supposed to double contract. And so I don't do a lease option seller finance at the same time.
Right.
I will do them one after the other. I will have a lease option first. And because a lease option is a contract of possession. They can possess that house, not in a weird way, not in a spiritual, creepy demon way. They can have possession of that house because of that lease option. A real estate purchase contract is not a contract of possession. A purchase contract is a contract of performance. And so that's why I can have a lease option where they are living in the house, making a payment. It substantiates them giving me, like in some of the cases, $90,000 to live there. And then I refinance that house after the fact because I have a lease option. I present that to the bank. And in fact, it's so funny watching some of these appraisers' faces, lease options, and they're like, like one of the ones that I showed you, they gave you $90,000 in a lease option and they're paying you $3,000. Like, where do you find these people? Like they're, these appraisers are like blown away, but it's a legit lease option. We're not pulling the wool over him. It's the only thing in place, and they've moved into the house and they're making payments. And then when I convert it from lease option to seller financing, we'll actually go down to the title company and officially sign on. There's going to be a settlement statement. I'm buying them a homeowner's title policy. When I do that lease option, I do what's called a contract for deed, which might have to be a conversation for another day. But we do an official closing at the title company to do that seller financing transaction, and we execute the pending real estate purchase contract. That is, again, it's a contract of performance where basically they've done their job, or they've done their part of the REPC already, or the real estate purchase contract already. I just need to finish mine and sit down and do that seller financing transaction. But nothing changes for them. The payment's the same. The interest rate's the same. I'm amortizing it from day one anyway. And so, but everything's crystal clean for the lender, for title, for the division of real estate. I actually use all the contracts that I use are basically right off of the division of real estate website. My purchase contract, my lease option. We don't use the contract for deed on the division of real estate, Utah division of real estate website, because it's called a uniform real estate contract. Nobody knows what that is, and all 50 states don't use that term. Contract for deed is a broadly known term, especially most people understand that. Yeah. And so we put contract for deed on top. And so that's really the only difference. And obviously it was, my contract for deed was drafted by an attorney, but yeah, hope that makes sense.
I think it did. And then, and Scott responded that he loves it. So yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So, and then I get lease option income to qualify. This is how I was able to do dozens.
Yeah.
Back to back to back. Now, sure, I do have good income nowadays, but this might be open up a whole new can of worms, of story for another day. But for example, my wife, she hasn't worked since we had our first kid 7 years ago. So she hasn't had a W-2 or a day job or anything like that. And so I'm like, okay, let's go get my wife a whole bunch of loans too. And so we're setting it up where on $60,000 a year income, my wife can qualify to go get 10 properties back to back to back to back to back.
Boom.
Because every one of these gives you that lease option income from day one that just helps you qualify for deal number 2 and then deal number 3 and so on and so forth. In fact, there were several times where I was doing 2 at a time.
Wow.
And my lender loves me.
I bet.
Dozens of loans for me.
Yeah.
Doing these types of deals. But yeah, great questions.
That's awesome. So we'll say that's the last of the questions. So anyone that's listening, if you guys are on here and you watch the whole thing, I want you to put in the comments lease option. Then we know you listened to no one's going to know. Just put in lease option. Why not? And also, if you want to get a hold of Daine, just reach out to his email, Daine@daineclark.com, right? Yes. So if you need help, you know someone that can help him out, then go ahead and do that. If you're looking to actually learn how to do some of the stuff yourself, whether that's smaller stuff like wholesaling or even the complex stuff that Daine's doing, me and Daine, we came from the same kind of the education system platform where we learned all this stuff and we got connected to the community. You can reach out to me just on Messenger, or even just go into my link tree and set an appointment there. It's linktree.com /ask Jared. And so I'll put it in the comments too if you guys want to reach out. So reach out to either one of us. We're here to help out. And Daine, thank you so much, man. You're amazing. Like the truth bombs that was dropped here is unlimited, man. So I really appreciate you coming out, spending the time, even though we had some hiccups to getting things going. But I think we took me 20 minutes. We got to iron out eventually. But man, I really appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to say to anybody, to everybody else that's listening?
No, I mean, when I set my original goal of I wanted to help 1,000 people make money in a real estate deal, and we just hit that this year.
That's so
and
cool.
So my newest goal is I want to help another 1,000 people make money in a real estate deal. And so I'm still, my head's still in the game, if you will. I haven't just retired. I mean, we did just buy a ranch out here in Idaho, and we got 40 plus acres and a river run through it, whatever. But my head's still in the game. We're still helping people. I think I've probably helped, if I were to guess, around 100 other people make money in real estate deals this year to date. And so we're still cranking them. And, just reiterate, if you're interested in, Jared and I met each other basically at the same real estate group. If you're interested in that, reach out to Jared. And, and then of course, if you're interested in some kind of deals that I'm doing, if we're borrowing, whatever, I'm happy to look at deals and see what we can do to help. And so appreciate you, Jared, as always.
Awesome. No, thanks again for coming on. This is why I love you, man. It's just, you're just a fountain of knowledge. Like you don't hold anything back, which is really commendable. And you have abundance attitude, abundance mentality. And so it's just like, it's going to come back to you eventually. So that's why you're just a solid dude, and I appreciate coming on, taking the time and getting here, and thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Appreciate you, brother.
Okay. All right. See you, man.